Hello everyone, my name is Rosito Orquesta and welcome to Malaya. In this video we are going to talk about web designing. First topic that we have is the HTML, or the Hypertext Markup Language. It is a scripting language for web designing. So basically an HTML is uh, the skeleton of the web-based application or systems. In a web, um, designs are being kept intact, or shall we say are being put in place by HTML scripting language. An HTML is not a complete programming language because unlike the programming language that able to connect with database, HTML is only for basic designs, shall we say, in creating or developing the graphical user interface of a web-based application or a web-based system. So HTML is a scripting language. It's not a programming language. So this video is just a review on the previous learning of my students for the third year college of GHCC. Um, so I will not go into details about or very deep details about HTML, but just a simple review on how to use the HTML scripting language in web designing. So with that, I have here different topics of HTML, or the Hypertext Markup Language. So in the list we have the HTML elements, the browser support, attributes, global attributes, event attributes, color names, canvas, audio video, DOM, the character sheets, URL encoding, the language codes, country codes, HTTP messages, and PX to EM converter. So these are the most common and important elements or topics within the hypertext markup language, especially in developing a web-based system or a web-based application. So first in hand we have the HTML elements. So if we say HTML elements, it talks about those objects that you can see in your website, in your web page, like the header, or a frame, or an image, an input box, or a button, or a label, links. So those are what called elements. All the objects that is displayed in your web page are called HTML elements. They are compositional tags. They are say for example, if you are going to create an HTML, simple HTML, a web page, okay. So these tags here are what makes up the elements. We have the body elements, the head elements, the title elements, as well the whole document HTML. So these tags represents a single element or HTML element. So if we are going to display, this will be the output of that index.html file. As you can see here, the title is being displayed. This is my home page. Okay. So if I'm going to create an input box, it would look like this. Okay. So I have now created a new text box or input text box in my home page in my index.html uh, file. So this is another element or HTML element. So okay, so it is created using tags. These are the tags. For example, a header where you can put your title, and in the body all the designs. Or say okay, and we can add a button. Okay, you can see on the output I have a text field or text box. I have here a drop down select and a submit button. So all of these are what we call the HTML elements. Now if you see browser support, it's a default code of functions that is included in the package in creating HTML script, which are accessible depends on the type of browser that is used by the client or the one that using your web page, your website. So there are attributes, we call this attributes. So there are attributes for those HTML elements that are available and not available in some of the web browser. Like for example, the autofocus and the disabled. As you can see, I have used the disabled function here, or um, attributes, I mean. So in my select elements, I use the disabled um, I use the disabled attributes, and that disabled attributes is, though it's available for most of the web browser that is present in the market, some versions are not functioning well with this um, disabled attributes, just like this autofocus. So it says for Chrome it would be 5.0 and higher, I guess. For Edge, Microsoft Edge, it will be the version 10 of Microsoft Edge. Any version lower than version 10 could not function or will not read the attribute autofocus on some elements. Okay, so these are just attributes, so you have to be picky. You have to be careful with creating an attributes with your HTML elements, because some of the browser are not able to perform the function or the attributes. There are a browser that are not updated, and then if you say attributes, those are attributes that is included in any HTML elements to create some designs, some specific designs. Say for example, if you want that to have a, a name, a call span. Say for example, if we are going to create uh, shall we say we create a button here, no, or say let's create a table. TR means table row and TD means the cell elements. So you have here the small table with numbers 1 to 3. Now let's say I am going to use call span. So a call span is an attribute for table design. Say I want to erase 3 and then make this column with value number 2 to occupy 2 columns instead of only 1 column. So I will say call span equals to 2. Now this is the original form of our table, but when I refresh this one, this will take effect. The call span 2 will become like this. Okay. No, we could not see the actual result if we don't have another row above. So with this, I'm going to remove this one. So say We have this as 3, and then so say A and B instead, so that we can see the actual result of the call span. As you can see, with the call span 2 for the second row, the column B, or the second column, is occupying two columns belonging to 2 and 3 in the first row. So that is the effect of a call span. Now it's a little tweak to the design without using the CSS or the cascading style sheets, just the HTML scripting language. So this call span here talks about column span. So how many columns will that particular column will occupy? Will it occupy the original one column at a time, or will it span or expand its territory to the next few columns? So for example, 2 columns. So this is what we call attributes. So for example, this one, this value here, this type, this placeholder, this disabled, these are what we called attributes. This one, border, that is also an attribute. So it is an additional script or a tweak or capability to your HTML element. That is what the meaning of attributes. Now let's talk about global attributes. In this example, a global attribute is a an attribute that would take effect of the entire document. Will it be draggable? An element is draggable or not? So, so if we talk about global attribute, it will be applicable in a wider range, not just in one, let's say one element, one HTML element, but it would be applied to most elements or uh, a large number of elements. So for example here, the style, okay, style. So if I am going to add, add a style, so since a style is a specifies an inline CSS style for an element, so we can have it here. So supposedly, to create a more attractive HTML element, we applied CSS or the cascading style sheets, but we can have it inline to the HTML element itself by using the global attribute style. So for example, color red. As you can see here, the word submit becomes red. Another is say hidden. uh, if you are going to create this one invisible, let's try if we can apply a hidden feature in this or attribute. As you can see, you can the select option is missing. Or say we're going to create um, an ID or a class. For example, we had here top buttons. The other one is conceal. Okay, let's try this one. So global variable. Yes. Let's try this one. Now I have used the class attribute, global attribute for these two button, and I call it BTN. So the purpose of this is that we can create a single design for these two buttons in one go. So for example, I have in the title, I'm going to create a design, or maybe in the body. So we say style. So this tag will allow us to create a cascading style sheet on our document, not in a separate document. So we can integrate the CSS scripts in our HTML script by using this tag style. Since I have given this a class btn, so we can say btn and have it background color. Let's say if this will work. Say blue. Let's try that one first. As you can see, the color of our button becomes blue, just this one line. And by accessing this attribute, a global attribute class called btn, and then if I am going to create an ID for each, say this one is for btn cancel, and the other one is btn submit. So I'm going to create a separate design for each. You see, for btn cancel, I would say color red, and then for btn submit, I would say color green. Okay, let's see what happened. So they have now a different font color. So these two here are examples of a global attribute. It could be accessed not just on the HTML script but inside a style tag for CSS. Okay, now an event attributes. What are event attributes? So an event attributes is another attributes for HTML elements that would create a simple action, add a simple action to any HTML element. So in this example, I want to make a simple action when I try to um, say, let's select an action here. For example, here in this text box, I want to create an action every time I press, or shall we say an on key press for this element, the input text box. So say okay, here. So on key press, or say on key up, I want to call a function, say MSG box, and I want to pass a value this. whatever the things I have, or the text I have typed or encoded in that text box. So because this is a function, so that means I am going to create a script here. A script is an embedded JavaScript in your HTML file. Say function name is gbox, and then say a or str, then this um, is a alert str. Let's try if this will work. The on key up. Okay, refresh the file, then try to press and says D. When I try to add A, it will say DA. Okay, so you can see it adds a little interactive event in your web page. So, or shall we say, can use this onload. Well, okay, onload. Whenever this page loaded, it will display a certain message. Say, in the body, we're going to say onload, and then yeah, onload show welcome. So let's try this one, and then create a function here, show welcome, and say hey, let's have that one. So if I'm going to refresh this one, that means it will reload my HTML file, and since it will reload, it will display this message, hello, welcome back, because it is being called in the onload of the body of our HTML file, as what the example here, that it will fire after the page is finished loading. Let's try that one. So refresh, and it will say hello, welcome back. See, so those are action attributes. There are different action attributes here, or event attributes, and then color names. So basically, color names, if it is the first degree color combination, the RGB, you can use a word like red, blue, yellow. So those are the basic colors. But if you want to use a complex color or a combined color, you cannot use the word, because you have to use the hex code. Let's say for example, in here we have the for Alice blue, we have the sharp sign F0F8FF. So okay, so let's try to change the color of all our button from, say, from blue for the cancel. We're going to change that into so I might remove this one first, because I want to have a different color for each button. So say I will change that to brown. We have our E5, or let's try first to use the word brown. See if this will work. Okay, that works. And how about we use the hex code for blue violet, which is sharp 8A. Okay, so for the other button, we will have sharp 8A, 2B, and then 2. Let's try if that works. Okay, so it works. So this is the way how to change the color, or how to apply color in your HTML elements. And then next to that is canvas, color, styles, and shadows. Okay, so basically a canvas is where you can create or draw a specific object. So it's like a drawing pad. Okay, so if you want to load a picture or any irregular shapes in your web page, you are going to use canvas. And then that canvas, you can do whatever you like. You can fill the style, you can stroke style, you can shadow color, shadow blur. So it's like a paint area. We're going to draw in that area. Okay, I will not discuss further on that because that's rarely used in web designing. Okay, so let's jump to audio video DOM. So when you are going to, if you are going to create a web page or a website that would play videos or music, you are going to create a YouTube like um, web page or web. We're going to create a Facebook like or a Spotify like system web-based application. So you need to have these methods in your scripts, HTML audio video methods. So I will not build on this one because this is rarely used, but important is your reviewed that there are methods you can use for this type of web designs. Character sets. So character sets talks about uh, how will be the web page how will the web page display your text files, your words, your paragraphs, because there are certain specific to say codes for each of the words or the text, especially the special characters. Most commonly used codes is the UTF-8, and there's some, if you can, if, I don't know if you have encountered such time that when you open a website or web page, let's say for example um, the portal for the GHCC, uh, there are some um, characters that are not displayed. It is being replaced by either asterisk or a person sign, right? So that is because the compatibility of the code and the browser. So most commonly used code is the UTF-8. So for example, the INI, the letter INI, the N with a hyphen, it will not be displayed normally in the web page, not unless you are using uh, a specific code for that characters to be seen normally in your web page. Let's try to have an example if this will work. So I don't apply any code here for the character sheet, and then I'm going to create here an NE. Let's try to create an NE, see if this works. Okay, A5, and then so it works. So by default, the characters are being displayed. So there are things, let's say for example, um, I know I've seen some of character sheets in the portal that is not being displayed normally. Let's try to have a look on this. Say, let's try to see if these are some. I like this one, Minusa. If I'm not wrong, this is or this is Minusa. But as you can see, the inye is not displayed as inye but a question mark. Right? This because of the character sheet that used in this web page for the GHCEC. Okay, right. So that is one example of having the right character sheets for a web page. So in our example here, a sample web page, if you want to create a specific character sheet for this web page, we must say meta uh, car set, and then say for example the UTF dash 8. Okay, or maybe we can have the ASCII too, like that, or the NC. Okay, but most commonly used is the UTF-8 character set. That is the default usually for most of the web browser that is available in the market. Then say, since we have applied, oh no, save that one, then refresh this one, see what will happen to the still display. Okay, say for example we change this to NC, still display. Or hey, as you can see, when I use the ESC2 character sheet, what happened to the inye is it is changed into the A hyphen with this positive negative sign and a single quote, right? The inye is not displayed as inye. So you have to be careful on what character sheet you are going to use in your web page. Let's just remove this one, and then we also have this the URL encoding. Okay, so as per explanation and definition, a URL encoding is the percent encoding. It converts characters into a format that can be transmitted over the internet to um, Your files will not be just transmitted as files, but it will be changed or encoded into a percent encoding or URL encoding. URLs can only be sent over the internet using the ASCII character set, and since URLs often contain characters outside the ASCII set, the URL has to be converted into a valid ASCII format. Okay? URL encoding replaces the ASCII characters with percent followed by two hexadecimal digits. And let's have an example. Say, let's try to find uh, here. Uh, this is um, it is being hashed, so we cannot use that one. Let's try to find another example link. Maybe we can have it is being converted, but sometimes how can we want to give you an example. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this in your in the video in your screen, but there is, as you can see, there is a %3 here. That represents a character that is outside the ASCII ESC2 code. Okay, or or we can have an example like, let's just type an example. So for example, https www.facebook.com/this page percent uh, percent 20. Okay, if percent 20 is another percent 20 owned, percent 20 by, and then percent 20 me. So instead of having a space for this page is owned by me, those white spaces are replaced by percent 20. And you have seen this somewhere in the web or in the net. You have opened a link and it is displayed as like this. There are percent 20, percent 3, and any other percent and then numbers that represents a single character that is not available or not available in the ASCII or the ESC2 character set. So simply means like here, URLs can contain spaces. URL encoding normally replaces a space with a plus sign or a percent 20. Okay. Simply means transferring data or information through the web URL. So that is URL encoding. For example, if you want to send a word hello earthlings from index.html to home.html, clicking a button, simply do this. Okay, as you can see, there is a percent here, a question mark, then a variable that will receive the word hello earthlings, and then in the browser and the receiving browser, you will see Instead of having a space between the hello and earthlings, it will be replaced with %20. Right? That is how URL encoding works, or percent encoding. Now the language codes. So this is another attribute for HTML files or scripting. It, it sets what language will be used in your website. Okay, so with the example here, it will be lang and en, or HTML lang en for English. So for example, if you want to use other than English, see Arabic, so instead of en, we will have r. So let's try if this will work in our browser. So HTML lang equals r. Let's try to refresh this one. Since the default language is Arabic, so it will offer you to translate it to English, but since we hard encoded this full name, these elements here are these elements here are the options. We hard coded these contents using the English word or the English alphabet, so therefore it will be displayed as English. But some other text that generated by the web page, if it is generated, it will be in an Arabic form by default. The next to that is countercodes. So in HTML, countercodes can be used as an addition to the language code and the lang attribute. The first two characters of the language code defines the language of the web page, and the last two characters define the country. So English US, because there are different types of English, we can say English US, English um, somewhere in the some part of some western part. uh, there are different types of English US, UK. So you have to be specific what English language are you trying to use in your web page. And then the HTTP messages. So these are HTML error messages, and the most common is the 404 not found error. We often encounter the 404 not found if the file, the HTML file or the PHP file can't be loaded. It is not can't be found in the server. So when we say HTML errors, it is being coded by numbers 100, 101, or 103, and then a corresponding description to that information or to that error. So it's basically um, a warning message for the developer or for the user. In designing and web page designing, you are going to include this error message. So you are going to implement an if else statement in your PHP script or in your JavaScript jQuery to load HTML error messages to notify or let the user know what type of error is uh, encountered during the execution of the command. Again, the most common error we encounter is the 404 not found. And then last to that is the PX2M converter. This talks about how we create or how we specify the the size of the HTML elements. So usually there are only two, the PX and percent. We mostly use PX and percent, not the EMs. Let's say for example this button here, okay, using the CSS, I will say the button cancel will have a height of 100px. Oh no, let's have a break here first, the br, and then instead of giving a height, we say width. The width of the button cancel will be at 100%, 100px I mean, and then the other one will have the width of 100%. Let's say, what is the difference between 100px and 100%? Okay, so here, so button cancel will occupy 100 pixel in width, but the submit button will occupy the total space or total width of your monitor. Okay, not the monitor but the allowable space of your web page. So because it automatically applies a margin here. Okay, yeah. Okay, that's the 100% view, as you can see. So this is the 100px cancel button, and this is the submit button with 100%. So 100px, 100%. So the difference is the 100px will occupy 100%, 100 pixels on its width, according to the width of the screen, the allowable screen. And then the 100% is the total allowable space for width of your computer monitor or screen. So that's the difference between having a px and a percent. And as you can see, if I am going to change this 100 to say 1000, now this is 1000. If I am going to resize my browser, the 100% will automatically adjust itself, but the 1000 px will remain 1000 px. As you can see, it will not uh, change or automatically reduce to what is the current width of your browser. So that's another difference between a px and a percent. So that marks the end of the review on what is hypertext markup language. So as I have said earlier, before I start, I will not talk too much or discuss deeply on HTML scripting language because this is just a review. But if you have concerns, clarifications, questions, you can comment, uh, and I will try to answer the best I can on your inquiries about hypertext markup language. That's it for today. Thank you so much, and I hope you learned something.